Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. It's funny because people often get caught up and think that six figures is really glamorous, or that seven figures is going to be really glamorous. And today on the podcast, I'm going to be talking about what six figures really looks like, what it looks like in terms of sales, what it looks like in terms of expenses, what it looks like in terms of what you're going to be doing all day, potentially. But also, I want to just start this with, I was actually going to record this episode earlier. I had sat down, I was here with my microphone, I was ready to do it. And I was sat here thinking, I'm going to talk about all the inspirational things that come when you hit six figures. And instead what actually happened was about 5 fire engines, that was the actual number of fire engines, parked outside the apartment block that I live in. So I was like, oh my God, we're on fire. Also too noisy to record a podcast. Turns out that it was not actually anything to do with my apartments. It was some down the road. A local coffee shop had a particularly nasty experience, and so I ended up going over there and taking some water over for some of the employees, and basically just having a nose. Does anyone else do that? Does anyone else kind of be like, oh my goodness, something's happening, I want to go and be a good citizen, but also I sort of want to find out what's going on? So I was that person this morning. So I have to apologize that even though you don't know it, I was a couple of hours delayed recording, and I feel like I should own that. I feel like I should be accountable for that, because I was going out delivering water and trying to be a good citizen in the community. Also, fire engines, not a great background noise I would find for the podcast. I think Scott would be very annoyed at trying to edit that out. So there are a multitude of reasons. But six figures, what does it really look like to get there? What does it really look like to sell at that level? What are you actually going to have to do every day to make it happen? That's what we're talking about today on the podcast. So if you are thinking, actually, do you know what? I'm ready to take this six-figure success to a new level. I really want to scale my sales. I really want to be that six-figure business owner. Then this one is for you. I also had a real temptation then to say first name, like it does an active campaign, so it populates your name. I don't think the podcast is going to do that, but imagine I'm saying your name right now. So let's get into today. What does six figures actually look like? Now, I think the first thing to say here is that annoyingly, it is going to look different for everyone, which may or may not be helpful for you right now. You might be thinking, but Jess, I want a prescriptive way to hit that six-figure mark. And then after that, I'll figure out what I like doing and what I don't. And to a certain degree, that's cool. You can use formulas to get to six figures. You can use things that are prescriptive. Most of the strategies out there, if you implement just one at a time, will help you reach that six-figure mark. There are a few other things that may stop you in terms of your own personal accountability and implementation, and whether or not something is generic or bespoke. But the reality is that the majority of what's available on the market, if you really make it a priority, you really implement it and you stick with it, can actually get you to a six-figure point. However, and this is the caveat, what that looks like for you needs to be about what you choose. Okay, so what I mean by that is that some people right from the beginning say, I don't want to work one-to-one. Now, there are, and I've recorded multiple episodes on why I believe you should, why I think it's great for cash flow, why I also think it's great for clients. But some people right from the beginning, they're like, I don't even want to work with other people. I want a product-based business. Yeah. Some people right from the beginning decide that they want their primary model to be a membership site. And that's just what they want. And they want it to be their primary model. They want it to be their priority. And so actually they might not need to do some of the other stuff. Whatever you choose to get to six figures needs to be something you can stick with. Okay. So when we talk about, making six figures, let's give it some context. All right. Six figures is making 100,000 dollars or pounds. You can have whatever currency you like, even euros if you want. You can do that in a bunch of different ways. You could sell 2 things at £50,000 each. Okay, so if you're in the car sales business and you sell luxury cars, that's not going to be too difficult. You can make £100,000 with 2 sales. Equally, you could go out there and you could decide that you want to sell 5 things at £20,000. And again, in a whole year, you're going to have to get 5 customers to pay you £20,000. What we see a lot of online and the mainstream model at the moment seems to be this one, where actually we, instead of, selling the high ticket stuff, we go, okay, I'm going to sell 100 products at £1,000. And again, there's no right or wrong. If that's what you want to do, that's great. If you have an audience size that can sustain it, also great. It's 100 people a year. We can also go lower than that. And that's what we see, with the rise of popularity in things like membership sites and recurring subscription models, low ticket, high volume. We start seeing people who are selling things at £20, £40, £50, £100. Now, obviously, the lower the price, the more you have to sell to hit the goal. So when we start thinking about, what does 6 figures actually look like? What does making 6 figures actually look like? How easy do you want it to be for you? How easy do you want it to be in terms of financially hitting that number? Because if you want it to be easy, and given that it's just as easy or difficult to sell something at £50,000 as it is at £5,000, as it is at £50, you might want to go to the top end, the premium end of your scale, because that means you're going to get paid more and it's going to be quicker. And actually, you're going to have to work with fewer clients. Now, the downside to that, there is a downside, is that you're quite likely going to be working on things that are high touch, high transformation. And so when you start working on high touch, high transformation, you're going to have client delivery and fulfillment. And that's going to be at a high level. It's going to be at a premium level. So they're going to have expectations. So you have to start thinking about, okay, well, when I'm looking at what 6 figures looks like, do I want to be responsible for helping to provide the transformation that a £50,000 product or service is going to be promising somebody? Or am I more comfortable giving a £2,000 product or service transformation at the current level? So, don't just start thinking about, okay, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to create a £100,000 product because Jess said so. And it means I'll only have to get 1 customer all year. Instead, think about, what level of service do you want to provide? What kind of experience do you want to provide? And how do you want to hit that goal? Like, how hard do you want to make it to hit the goal? Because obviously, like we said, the lower the price, the more you are going to have to sell. And also the bigger audience that you're going to have, because when we have to sell more products at a lower price, we need more people to be going through those sales processes. Now, I was thinking about this the other day, because one of the things that I've been talking about with my masterminders recently is this idea of work less, make more, which I think it's been touted enough in the online space that it's become sleazy, and when they hear it, people are like, oh no, not another person saying, do less, make more. But in actual fact, that is the business ideal for most people. And if you listen to last week's episode, you'll know we were talking about balance, and you might have started to look at your business last week and be thinking, oh, actually it's pretty balanced, or actually no, I feel overwhelmed a lot of the time and I'm working at maximum capacity and I need that to stop. So depending on the kind of business you want to build and the experience that you want to have in 12 months time and how quickly you want to hit this 6-figure goal is going to be, is going to reflect a lot of your answers to these questions. So this episode is not necessarily about, I'm going to go and teach you the formula that I used, because the formula that worked for me may not work for you, but it's more about the questions you're going to need to ask yourself and find your own answers to, whether that's alone or whether you want to work through them with a coach or a mentor, and figure out what you actually want to build. Okay. Now, shameless plug here. If you are looking to build your business to 6 figures within the next 12 months, and it's a serious goal for you, Evolve is accepting applications only until the end of April. Then we're going to shut it down. We're going to onboard the amazing people that are already signed up and taking advantage of the Evolve experience and who are already going through the curriculum to make sure that they're building the most balanced business they can, that they really are making the money that they want by actually working less and establishing themselves as that thought owner in their space and moving towards that thought leadership spot. So if you are interested in totally disrupting and totally dominating your industry and changing your business for the better and helping you make that 6 figures over the next 12 months, Evolve is accepting applications until the end of the month. And all you need to do is go to smartleadersell.com/evolve. You pop your name and your email address in there, and then you will get an email from me and the Fred Flintstone elves that work at Active Campaign that will tell you a little bit more about Evolve, about what the experience actually is, and invite you to apply. And you can go from there. You can apply for the Evolve experience. If you are the right fit, you will receive an email from me inviting you to join us. And if you perhaps would fit a better solution or a different solution, I will reply anyway personally with some personal feedback, some honest feedback to help you take the next best steps in your business. So either way, it's your opportunity to get my eyes on your business. So if you are thinking that you would like to join the Evolve experience and really maximize your opportunities for business growth this year, make sure you head over to smartleadersell.com/evolve and get yourself an application in for an epic year. But 6 figures, what's it look like? What are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves? So we've kind of gone through the first questions around what do you actually want it to look like? You know, make your own decisions about how you want to build this business. Do you want to be premium in terms of experience, in terms of price? Do you not? We also have to look at what do we currently have access to? You know, do we have access to a warm audience already? Are we starting right at the beginning? For most people, it's unusual to completely start at the beginning. And again, this is a conversation I was having with my team the other day. It's always interesting for me when somebody joins my team, because what we've been doing with our hiring strategy of late is hiring people who only want to work for me, which is quite exciting. But obviously they've not worked for themselves before. So it can be quite challenging from that perspective. And one of the common questions that's been coming up, the common themes that have been coming up is this idea of, well, you know, what if I don't get any other clients? And oh my goodness, you know, what if this doesn't work for me? And it's interesting because the response I have every time is the same. When I started out online, I didn't know anyone. I had no networks. I had nobody that knew who I was. And I had to sit in these Facebook groups and, you know, really show up and really take charge of the conversations I was starting. I had to do my own market research on other people's property. And that could sometimes be quite uncomfortable. The benefit of working in a business that is already established, so for my team, you know, working with me, is that if they wanted other clients, the great thing is they already have somebody who has a network, who has an audience. And so they're not ever really going to be starting from scratch. And it is really unusual for people to start from scratch in the online space these days, because even if you don't, you know, even if you're like me and you came straight out of corporate, most people do stick within their areas of expertise. So even if you came from corporate, you'll still have people who could give you referrals. You'll still have old networks that you can tell and say, hey, look, I'm doing this now. I've set up this business. Would it be okay if anyone comes across, you know, your door that needs help with X, Y, and Z, that you refer them to me? So it is really unusual for people to come in and to have nothing. Okay. So when you're starting this journey to hit the 6 figures and you're thinking about what do I really want to achieve? What's my goal in life, or my goal for my business within the next 12 months? Start thinking about, what do I already have that can be contributing to this goal? Do I already have some kind of audience, no matter how big or small? Am I actually maximizing that audience? You know, audience size is a tricky one, because again, when we talk about getting to 6 figures, people often assume that you have to have a huge audience. And that's not the case. I mean, even now, at the level that my business is at, we have a total audience of around 25,000 people. If you're sat there and you're like, Jess, I have 10 people on my email list, 25,000 seems like a lot. I get it and I hear you, and it is. And you know, when I started out and I had nobody, I also thought 25,000, I'm like, that's the dream. But actually, in comparison to a lot of my peers who are, you know, similar levels financially, they all have much bigger audiences. You know, they all have, you know, these huge, like 10,000, 15,000 person strong Facebook groups, and they all have huge social followings. And I don't. You know, I have, I think, 5,000 and something followers on Instagram, and I have my very proud 790 followers on Twitter. So thank you if you follow me on Twitter. But for me, having that small audience has actually been amazing, because a lot of people would tell me, and I think a lot of people still say this, you know, you can't sell at a high level, or you won't make as much money if you don't have a big audience. And that's not true. I sold out my first group program, 25 people, when I had an email list of 230 something. You know, there was no way, in accordance to the stats that are being shouted about online, that I should have ever been able to do that. But what we don't take into account is people's sales skills and their ability to convert and their ability to build quick, genuine relationships. Okay. And so you've got to start taking this into account. So don't start thinking, oh my goodness, well, I'm never going to be able to make 6 figures because I've got an email list of 10 people and, you know, nobody follows me on social. Start looking at the opportunities that you have. Great, I have 10 people that follow me on social media. That means I get to pay more attention to them than anyone else, right? Because they follow me, they like me. I'm going to give them more content, or, you know, I'm going to give them an awesome experience. I'm going to reach out and get to know them personally. You know, you can create better experiences. And in fact, the smaller your audience, the easier it is to create a better experience, because as your audience gets larger, you have to do a lot more with automation. It becomes more challenging, and things don't feel live anymore. They don't feel real anymore because you don't have as much contact. So whilst you're at that point of having a smaller audience, embrace it. You know, get down with your audience, be in your group. My group, I think my free Facebook group was at a point I'd maybe got, 1,200 people, I think, back in 2017. And I did over 400 hours worth of free Facebook Live content. I was in there Monday to Friday, every day, 5 o'clock, every single day to 5:45. I was in there, I was doing trainings, I was doing Q&As. I was, you know, really getting close to my audience because it was smaller and I had more time to be able to do that. And that's the other thing, is that when we start thinking about 6 figures, what does it really look like? We have to start looking at, well, what are we willing to put into it? And, you know, that's going to come in 3 forms. One is time. So typically when we're looking at building our business from 0 to 6 figures, or from any amount to 6 figures, we have 3 resources available, and those resources will stay for the rest of our business evolution. Okay. And those resources are time, money, and energy. Now, when you're at the beginning of this journey and you're looking to make 6 figures, you're looking to make money, you don't want to spend tons of money to make that happen. You know, that's not often the case. So what people look at is their other resources. Okay, so what is technically free? We'll talk about why it's not free in another episode, but for now, let's look at what is technically free, and that's time and energy. So whilst you are looking to make money as the priority, imagine money at the top of the pyramid or at the top of the triangle, you need to put in time and you need to put in energy to make the money. Later on, when you want more time back, you can put money in and you can put energy in. And guess what happens then? Well, actually, you end up with clawing more time back, and you can also end up making more money. So start thinking about what you really want. Like, where's your pyramid right now? Where do you sit on that? And if it's time that you can put in, you can make that a really great experience. Like, what could you be doing? What could you be spending more time on that would help you sell more? What could you be spending more time on that would give your audience a better experience with you? One of the key examples to me that always comes up from one of my good friends, Heather Gray, is that she fell into my audience about 3 years ago. And I think she met me in a membership somewhere, and she started to follow me. And within a couple of weeks, I happened to be selling cash creation. And Heather even though at that point in her business, she wasn't making money. She tells the story much better than I do, but she wasn't making money in her business. And she came to me, she said, I really want to buy Cash Creation. I'm going to do it, because she'd had a great experience. Because one day, a few months earlier, she'd had a question. And on that day, I didn't have time to type out my answer. I was going about and I was doing things, and I was actually really busy, but I did have time to do a live stream. And so I went into my free group and I said, hey, Heather had this really awesome question. And I proceeded to answer the question on the live. And now it's the thing that she credits to her buying into Cash Creation, to her, following me, to identifying me as being the person she wanted to work with, but also to now 3 years of solid friendship. And I've hired her as a consultant many times to work with our Cash Creation groups. And she has hired me to help her do various things in her business. And we've had this amazing friendship over 3 years. But the moment that she credits to that is that moment that I took the time to do a live stream to answer her question. Now, that live stream also saved me time. I'm somebody who, I find it really difficult to type on a phone. So when I'm out and about, it's really hard for me to sit there and type on a phone and try and make sure that autocorrect doesn't actually, screw up and say something that I do not mean. So lives were a lot easier for me, and I was able to put that time in. Think about what you could be doing differently. Now, I don't mean go and do 400 hours worth of free content. I would not recommend that to anybody. It's an awful lot of work. And, if you're not doing it in the right way, can actually train your audience to become baby birds. Okay. So think about the time that you could spend on more sales activities, the time you could spend making your audience's experience better with you, those kinds of things that are practical, that are going to help you gain and retain more clients. And then think about energy. Now, this is I'm not talking energy as in like, let's all get out our little, I was going to say, xylophones. Is that a thing? In like retreats and stuff. Let's get out our xylophones and like ding and dong and hope for spiritual sanction. That's not it. But I'm talking about the energy that you spend on your business. Is it good energy? Is it bad energy? And what I mean by that is there are lots of people who waste a lot of time and energy on negative things, right? So keyboard warriors. If you are somebody who every week is finding something in the newsfeed that you don't like and you just have to say something, you cannot scroll by, your business is going to grow slower than everyone else's. Fact. Okay. That sounds really harsh, but it's true, because all of the energy that you're putting into this stupid argument about whether a dress is white and gold or blue and green or whatever that thing was is completely wasted. Right? You get really passionate about it. You're like, oh my goodness, I just have to tell everybody why my opinion is right. And guess what? You're telling the wrong people. You're telling people who do not care, because the people you're telling are people who've already indicated that they do not feel the same way as you do. So what does that do? Well, it means you waste a ton of energy and a ton of passion talking to people who are not going to come around to your way of thinking. So why bother? Go and talk to people who do. So that's why I don't get involved with things online, about sales strategies. People always say, oh, Jess, why did you not get involved in this massive debate on like whether webinars or challenges are the most effective way to sell? And I'm like, because I don't care. I just don't care. And if I spend that energy on that thing, what does that take my energy away from? Well, it takes my energy away from dealing with my clients. It takes my energy away from going out and putting together a really great sales email. It takes my energy away from creating a sales page, creating content, like doing something that's actually going to move the needle in my business, as opposed to keep me stuck with a bunch of people who are going to moan about stuff and make me feel frustrated and angry. And then we start thinking about good energy. Yeah, what are we doing that is good? How are we being productive? So I don't know about you, but one of the things that I've fairly recently discovered is that actually I'm quite good at working in the mornings. I'm not good at waking up, very bad at waking up. And I've tried everything. I've tried going to bed earlier. I've tried doing the whole wind down thing. I've got this great little Lumi clock that does this cool sunset thing and sunrise. I'm just not good at waking up. I'm a complete troll. Like, I just don't like not being asleep. But actually, once I'm awake and once I've had a coffee, if I get up at, 6:30 and I have a coffee, I can be super productive, and I have like this insane focused energy for like 3 or 4 hours. I'm not in my emails. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on any kind of social media. I'm just like, I'm doing the thing. And I spend this good energy on, blogging or recording a podcast or, looking at editing my clients' work or going through and writing emails, just things that are going to move the needle in my business. And that makes a huge difference. I'm expending that good energy on things that can actually be helpful, they're actually beneficial, as opposed to spending that energy on, honestly, just time wasted. And yet I am the person who is a massive advocate of go watch Netflix, chewing gum for the mind, binge watch TV series if that's what you want to do. Because for me, it doesn't expend any energy. And if I've had a really productive day and I've got a lot done and I've really moved a needle in my business, I feel like I've earned the right to sit and watch 10 episodes of Modern Family back to back. Maybe other people would differ. Maybe I could be a lot more successful. But you know what? It's, it comes back to that idea of balance that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So you have your time, you have your energy, and then finally you have money. And getting to 6 figures is hard when you try and do it on your own. I was really arrogant when I started my business. I thought it would be easy. I was like, well, how hard can it be? I can sell 10 products at 10K. I'm done. And that's not always the way it works out, because, what you always tend to forget is that, okay, well, I might be really great at doing the thing, but I might not have the marketing skills required, or I might not have the sales skills required, or I might not have the, following required, or I might not have the, copywriting skills, or whatever that is. And that's when money comes into it. I was in an article a few years ago in Forbes for giving my top tips to help you bootstrap your business. I think it was 2016, maybe 2017. I don't think it's relevant anymore. This is controversial. I wasn't expecting this, but when I hit record, I was not expecting that to potentially come out of my mouth, but let's go there. I don't think it's possible to bootstrap a business in the same way anymore. I think that every business now requires investment. And there are a few reasons for that. One is because so many businesses are starting so regularly. There's become such a low barrier to entry. It's become very cookie cutter, which means that it's become difficult to differentiate yourself, which means inherently people have needed to become better at the core, like sales and marketing skills, in order to succeed. So there are a few reasons why actually I don't believe that you can, should, or would want to bootstrap a business anymore. And I can tell you that back in 2015, it was hard enough then. Like, it was really hard. It was lots of time and it was lots of energy focused on things that a lot of them did not work out for people. It was spray and pray. It was hope marketing. And I don't believe that that's how people want to build a business anymore. I don't want people to build a business and hope that it works. I want people to be able to build their business and say, yes, I have made the right investments of time. I've spent time on the right things, on the right people, on the right relationships. I've used my good energy to be productive, to sell, to promote focused activity. And I've used my money wisely, and that doesn't mean you have to go out and get 100 grand of capital to start your business, but it does mean, like, look at your investments. Somebody said this to me in a community the other day. They said, oh, Jess, one of my clients is looking for a free tool to help them make more money. And I was like, right, okay. Why? Oh, well, they don't want to pay for it. Right. So you're looking for something for free and you want it to help you make more money, but you don't want to pay for it because you don't value it. No, we really value it. I'm like, well, you don't. And this is the thing. We have to start looking at strategic investments. And maybe this is a different conversation for a different day, but briefly, we have to start looking at making the right investments at the right level, spending the right money. So at the point that you are making zero, it is not a good idea to go and hire a Facebook ads manager and bash a load of money over to Zuckerberg, spend it on kind of ads and hope that you can convert them, right? That's not a good use of your funds. What is a good use of your funds? Maybe something that is actually less expensive. You might be able to go and buy a book. You might be able to go and buy a low ticket course. You might be able to buy a mid-price course. You might even decide I want to work one-to-one with somebody and figure out what my conversion strategy is and how I can, build a small but highly engaged audience that convert into clients. That might be money for you that is better spent. Yeah. So start thinking about, what do I actually need to spend money on? What do I actually need to learn? So a lot of people, when they come into the online space, we talk about, really, when you're talking about an online business, there are 3 key things you're going to get sold all the time. One is mindset. Okay. And a lot of people will start there with courses, right? Okay, you have to fix your mindset. And I agree, you have to have a certain mindset to start a business. Do I necessarily believe that you need to be working on fairly advanced mindset concepts, such as money blocks and that kind of thing, right at the beginning? Again, controversially, no, I don't. Because at the time that you decide you want to start a business, you are fired up and you are ready to do the work. You want this to happen. The more time you spend not doing the work is when you try and find these reasons for not doing it. And often that can throw up mindset issues around money blocks and around fears and around imposter syndrome and things like that. But if you go looking for these things, they're going to become much more prevalent, much more early on. That doesn't mean that I dismiss mindset work at all. I have worked with a number of mindset experts and they've been incredible. But the shifts that they've helped me with were not necessarily the things that I prioritized at the point I wanted to get to 6 figures. When I wanted to get 6 figures, I wanted to get to 6 figures. I didn't want somebody to help me work with my mindset to, I don't know, find hidden money blocks that I've been carrying around since I was a child. Because actually, those things, although they maybe cropped up and maybe they contributed to some of the successes and non-successes that I had, they weren't the priority. The priority was sales. And ultimately, that's one of the reasons that in the beginning of my business, I didn't have to invest in sales because I just had tons and tons of sales training. I'd just done all these years in it. One of the things I wasn't good at was audience building. And so the investments that I made in my business early on were around marketing. Okay, I'm good at selling. I know I can convert, but I need eyeballs. I need people to convert. How do I do that? How do I do it in my way? How do I put my own spin on it? How do I not make it boring? How do I not do what everyone else is doing? And so that was my top area that I needed to overcome, because ultimately I knew, well, I can make money. I just need people to sell to. Once I've got those, I'm golden. I'm out the gate. So start looking at your investments. You know, mindset is the first thing or the first major thing that you're going to see online, to where people want you to make an investment. Marketing is another. And again, this was one of my very first investments was marketing. So, and I believe that sales and marketing go hand in hand. They are not the same thing. And you can check out an episode that I recorded with Louise Mason a few months ago about what I believe is the difference between sales and marketing. But they go hand in hand. So if your struggle is audience building or creating content to build an audience, and you know you're really good at selling, then you might want to invest in marketing. You know, you might want to invest your time learning what marketing method is going to work for you. You might want to invest your time into, or your time, money, energy into campaign planning. Like, plan one thing, execute it really, really well. Build an audience solidly, sustainably. The other major area is sales. Obviously, I have a slight bias here in that I will always believe that sales is the lifeblood of any business. If you do not have sales skills, you will not have a business for very long. And that's because your business has to sell in order to be a business. Not because you can't deliver your end result. It's not because you don't want to help your clients. It's because your business's primary function is to make money. End of story. The secondary functions, sometimes, though it's hard to hear that, are to make impact, are to change the world, are to do all of the other much more interesting things. But the primary function of your business is to make money. And so if you don't have the correct sales skills, a good place to invest your money is understanding, how can I improve this? If I know that sales is a weak area for me, how can I improve it? And also be specific. What kind of sales do I want to improve? Do I want to improve fast cash generation? If so, go and invest in that particular area of selling. Do I want to invest in long-term sales strategy? Do I want to invest in, selling and scaling for sales? Sorry. Pick the area that you really need help with, sales calls, for example, launches, whatever that might look like for you. Pick that area and be specific and find somebody who can help you, or find a book that can help you, or find a resource. And again, these don't all have to be paid resources, but if you are going to be spending money, make sure you're spending it in the right places with the right people. if you follow 300 people online, it's going to be really difficult for you to buy. And it's also going to be really difficult for you to get results, because you're always going to be jumping from one thing to the next. And that isn't going to be successful. Because when you follow 1 million people and you take 1 million ideas and you go, oh, I'm just going to take this little bit from that person and that little bit from that person, you don't end up with a cohesive strategy. And you also don't always end up with puzzle pieces that are designed to fit together, which can be a real challenge. So always make sure that you are investing that time, that money, that energy into the right places, the right people, and that it's cohesive. You're not just jumping around from thing to thing, because that's where you're going to start to fall apart. That's where it's going to become more difficult, more challenging, where you're not going to get the results that you actually want. Okay. And then the final thing we have to talk about when it's about six figures and really building a six-figure business is the non-sexy stuff, the practicalities. Running a six-figure business is very different to being a solopreneur. Now, you might also be a solopreneur and a six-figure business, but when you hit six figures, people take notice. And I don't mean people in the online world who are waiting for you to put up a post that says, yay, I made six figures in 60 minutes, because that's not relevant. But I mean, you are taken seriously as a business owner by government entities. In the UK, you have to start paying VAT. Boo. I'm just waiting for someone from the VAT office now to come and be like, you booed us on a podcast, really? But you do. You have to take that into consideration. As a six-figure business, you have established a revenue that is of interest to taxmen. You need to start thinking about savings and profit and, net revenue versus gross. You also have to start thinking about, how do you protect your business? Do you have contracts in place? Do you have the right legal advice? Do you have an accountant who is good? One of the very first investments I ever made in my business was an accountant. In fact, I think he was the first, outside of the documentation that it takes. But I remember our very first meeting. I remember it vividly. We sat in this little room. They have offices in a town near where I live. And one of my friends who had previously been self-employed, they recommended me to them. And I went in and my accountant said to me, oh, good, it's really good to meet you. And what do you want to do? And where do you anticipate your business is going to be? And I sort of gave him some numbers that I'd thought about, and I told him what I'd been making. And he said to me, my job as your accountant is to help you retain as much of your profit as possible within the remit of the law. He was like, and I will never do anything shady, but I will always make sure that you have the money that you've earned to put in your pocket and that you have a fair amount. And I was like, well, that seems fair. And ever since then, it's been a really good relationship. But that's something you have to start considering, because at the point you get to six figures, being self-employed versus building a company and doing that kind of thing, there are practicalities financially and legally that you need to take into consideration. So do start thinking early about, if I'm building to this goal, what does that need to look like? Because the reality might be that if you're like, okay, I want to make six figures, but knowing that making six figures, I'm going to have to pay an extra however much for my taxes, you might actually need to make more than you think, or you might need to make less than you think. So just start thinking about those practicalities. What is your current profit margin? And how can you increase that? How could you make more money but do less? Is that about increasing your average transaction values? Talk to your accountants, your bookkeeper, your legal people to find out if you are actually operating in the right way. Because these are all the things that you need to start taking into account when you're building this kind of business. And that's what we're talking about when we say business, as opposed to I'm, working for a network marketing company who may take care of some of this for me. So really, really start thinking about that and start thinking about what you want that business to look like. So hopefully that's been interesting for you. And you're not now thinking, oh my God, I never want to build a thinking, yes, this is going to be amazing, because it really is. Building a business is a huge achievement, and it is something that I really, really want, especially more women to be doing. The percentage of women who actually create a six-figure business is small. Okay, 88% of women will not make six figures or more. 88%, which means only 12% of women will make six figures or more. So if you're a guy, you actually have a better percentage chance. I'm very jealous. My God. But if you're a woman particularly, you really need to make sure that you are one of that 12%. If you want to be one of that 12%, you need to go out there and start thinking about these things and start thinking about how you are going to make it happen. And obviously, if you do want help with that, like I say, Evolve is still accepting applications until the end of April. So if you do want to build that 6-figure business this year, you want to become that person who is leading in your space, who is disrupting your industry, who is building that balanced business that they want, making the money that they want whilst actually not working every single hour of the day, make sure you head over to smartlytosell.com/evolve, where you can submit your name and email address and get all of the details about Evolve and be invited to apply. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. It's been epic to spend today with you on the podcast. On Friday, we have another awesome guest, which I'm very excited about. And next week is our final April episode. Can you believe that we are already at the end of April? Oh my goodness, almost halfway through Q2. So make sure that you are well on your way to hitting your Q2 goals and that you are using your time to think about these questions and think about building the business that you really want. I'll see you in the next episode.